did you last call the program, Al?
Oh, about 2 months ago.
You're lying, Al. You called the other day.
I said over 2 months ago.
No, you're lying,
No, you're
Al.
afraid of me.
No, I'm
you're
not afraid of
Listen to me.
No, I'm not afraid of listening.
I said it's 2 or 3
Al,
months
you
ago.
called the other day, and I talked to you about your teeth. I said you should have them relined or something because they're not fitting too well.
Idiot. 2 or 3 months ago, I called you. Don't tell me. I'm not standing here defending myself.
Al, you know something? You're suffering from Alzheimer's because you forgot you called.
Listen to me.
In addition
Don't
to
tell me Alzheimer's.
Yeah. By the way, where'd you get those teeth?
You're a scumbag.
Where'd you get those teeth,
You're
Al?
a fascist.
Where'd you get those teeth, Al? Where did you get those teeth?
You're afraid to listen to me. But last time, about 2, 3 months ago, I called you about a few days later. You said, when did you call last? I said, about a few days ago. So you said, well, I can't talk to you. I said, okay, I'll call you next week. 2,
no,
3
you called the other
ago.
day. I think you were on yesterday with that whistling teeth.
You're a phony scumbag, you fascist bastard.
I'm a fascist?
You were afraid to listen to me.
Why am I a fascist? Because
listen to me.
Because I don't like communists? No, admit that you called yesterday and I'll let you talk.
I says I will not admit. What are you telling me?
You got to get those teeth relined, Al.
Yeah, but before I do, how about giving me that 1 minute?
1 minute? 1 minute for what? To make it even bigger fool of yourself? Why would you even call a guy you call a fascist scumbag? Why would you bother?
Did you call somebody a communist scumbag today? You don't even know the man?
Yeah, Paul Robeson, a communist scumbag.
Not the man in the synagogue that said the Rosenbergs
was that
were not
you?
guilty.
Was that you?
Oh, is that me?
Was that you?
You know what?
Was that you?
Why don't you give me a minute?
Why was that you, Al?
Let the audience know who you are. 1 minute.
Was that you, Al?
I said no, you phony.
I don't want Congress abridging. I don't want any law abridging. I don't want... It's bad enough with the politically correct scum out there. I don't want someone coming in with a slide rule saying, aha, you just went over the line. And let me tell you this about Bill Moyers, that sanctimonious hypocrite. I knew when he said he was going to do a program on hate, I knew it would focus only on white hate. And let me tell you this
exactly.
I knew he wouldn't focus on any other hate because Bill Moyers is either he's a self-hating white or he's intimidated by the black community from his days when he was Lyndon Johnson's stooge. I don't know what it is, but he cannot be even-handed. I knew it was going to be strictly focused on the white. And let me say something about... All right, how does this grab you? Current issue of New York Magazine. The cover says love stories. And the background for the words love stories, which are in gold chain, the background is a red that, it's a Valentine's card. And it says love stories by Danita Smith. And it shows 3 hearts with couples in each heart. It shows Maria and Cameron. It shows Sylvia and Abe. And it shows Spencer and Mike. Mike is not short for Michelle, it's short for Michael. Again, it shows a good-looking black couple, smiling, very happy with each other. I think they're both members of the New York Police Department. It says, yeah, they both are. Maria and Cameron. Then it shows Sylvia and Abe, a senior citizen couple, hugging each other. And then hugging each other, these 2 limp-wristed freaks, Spencer and Mike. Now, we know that homosexuality has existed since time immemorial. And we shouldn't be shocked and faint away because it exists. Nor should we harass those individuals who are that way. I don't think they should be persecuted, and indeed they aren't. At one time they were, but they aren't today. But to put them in a pantheon of lovers, of sweethearts, it's just too much. But there they are, Spencer and Mike. Let's see now. Who's cuter? Oh, they're both cute. Ooh. Ooh. Let's get back to our telephones here on the Bob Grant program. Ladies are sick and getting sicker. Congressman William Dannemeyer of California Congressman, there you are, plastered all over the front page of the New York Post, sensationalized story, because the president's personal physician has condemned you, Dr. Burton Lee. He said that you think everybody who has AIDS is bad, and that you take a very subjective and prejudicial attitude about it. Congressman, what's your response to this?
I'm just puzzled by whatever prompted Dr. Lee to make such a statement. I've been one member of Congress. I'm a senior member of the Health and Environment Subcommittee the last 6.5 years. I have struggled to have the nation adopt a public health response to control the AIDS epidemic rather than a civil rights response. And this means that anybody who is HIV positive would be reported by their physician in confidence to public health authorities, and we conduct contact tracing. And I'm happy to say that's now the official position, at least that every state should have that policy in force of the American Medical Association since December of '89. It's the official position of the New York State Medical Society. I wish I could say the same, that it was the official position of the California Medical Society, but I can't. But the reality is, Bob, that we Americans are witnessing the first politically protected disease in the history of this country. Male homosexuals, who comprise the biggest percentage of HIV carriers, have effectively stood the healthcare system of this nation on its head to prevent from being enforced basic fundamental steps of public health in controlling this fatal epidemic. And as a result, when I've made these statements that our public health law should be enforced, no matter who the person carrying the disease is, I have been attacked by homosexuals who contend that I'm somehow violative of their rights. And I say that's nonsense. I'd say that this is not a civil rights issue, it's a public health issue.
Mr. Grant, thank you for taking my call. A pleasure as always. So you know where I'm coming from. I've always considered myself a liberal, but I'm a big Bob Grant admirer. So I think what I am is a libertarian.
I think what you are is a schizophrenic, but go ahead.
All right. And that's all. Much more important, the Gotti trial. What is the government trying to do? I am not a fan of this man, Gotti. I am not a fan of organized crime. But they are completely throwing out the U.S. Constitution. They have held this man without trial, convicted of nothing, for 2 years. They've denied him his own attorneys. I mean, they are silencing the press. What are they doing? You know, this doesn't just affect him, whatever he might have done or not done. This is going to affect everybody.
I don't share your alarm, because John Gotti is no ordinary citizen. John Gotti has a record as long as your arm. John Gotti is a very feared, probably top captain, the top mafioso leader in the country.
But that has never been proven.
And well, it's definitely established without any. There's no question. He is who he is.
Like I said, I don't like the man, but prove it.
Well, look, the case
prove you are the good guy.
Okay, thank you for the call. You're a pain in the neck. Strange guy, but this program attracts strange guys. I mean, you got to admit, we have more strange callers per square foot than any other radio talk call-in program in the universe. Arthur, you're on W. Ladies and gentlemen, justice was done. Justice did prevail. Belatedly. It was only fitting and proper that Gary Spath be acquitted. Acquitted of something he should never have been charged with in the first place. Let's go back to that spring day, that fateful night, when Gary Spath was doing his job. 1990. That's right, almost 2 full years. 2 full years. There was a motion picture 2 years before The Mast, portraying how people who had been shanghaied into the service of His Majesty's Navy in the 1800s had suffered indignities beyond belief. 2 years, Gary Spath and his family have been held hostage. Hostage not by a legal system based on the rules of evidence, based on the law, not even based on logic, but based on the need to placate a segment of our community that is so used to calling the tune, it would brook no contradiction. It would tolerate nothing but obeisance to its intimidation. And so Flim Flam Florio allowed Robert Del Tufo, who forever will be a disgrace, to have a second grand jury indict that magnificent young man, Gary Spath. That's right, a lot of you don't even know there was an original grand jury which had been impaneled, and upon hearing the facts of the case, determined there were no grounds for an indictment of Officer Spath. You see, Officer Spath had responded to a call in which he and his partner and other officers were told there was a person with a gun. I told you about the other night when the person who was driving me had been robbed while he was making a telephone call, somebody ripping his pocket, taking a considerable amount of money out of it. And when the person was caught, he had on his possession a means of identification. You know what he had? A card. A laminated card, a photo ID card, which said, entitles bearer to food coupons and public assistance. A thug in his 20s. A strapping thug over 6 feet tall. What is he doing with public assistance cards? And when I questioned a police officer in the Midtown South Precinct headquarters that evening, he shrugged. He said, they all have them. I said, what do you mean they all have them? He gave out a weak laugh. I said, there's nothing to laugh at. We're paying for it. He shrugged. He said, what do you want me to do? And I said, I know there's nothing you can do. But there's something we can do, but we won't do it. We don't have the guts to do that. Let's say hello to Lee. Lee, hello.
Good morning, Grant. Good afternoon, Mr. Grant.
That's all right.
I heard your comment there to this officer, just praising him up as a hero who shot this man in the back. But, I found out that people like that have been shooting people in the back for the past 400 years. And people like you seem to gloat over the fact that they shoot people in the back and make a hero out of them. But I don't agree with that. I think if you're going to shoot a man, you ought to give a man at least a fair chance. This man was shot in the back with his hands raised in the air.
Well,
how could he be reaching for his gun if he had his hands in the air?
Well,
and you called him a hero?
Look, Lee, you are obviously very prejudiced in this matter. You're not capable of weighing the evidence.
Prejudice when he had part of his family as part of the jury?
Look.
I'm prejudiced?
Look.
If had an all-white jury and I'm prejudiced?
What do you want me to tell you? You want me to overrule the jury?
You call me prejudiced. What about...
Well, you are prejudiced because here you're talking... You make no allowance for the fact that the guy had a gun. You make no allowance for the fact that he thought he was turning and about to shoot him.
He was turning.
Look, we're not going to retry the case on a Bob Grant show, you jerk.
Oh, Bob.
But it's illustrative. I think it's very instructive here that the man said, give him a chance. Give him a chance to do what? To do to him what Sherrod Jones did to Stephen McDonald and so many others. There's so many police officers who are in their graves because they hesitated. So many police officers who are badly forever maimed because they hesitated. And this would have said, this is what that guy wanted? For Gary to hesitate and either be dead or maimed himself?
Well, Bob, the guy, first of all, he didn't even have the facts. The case showed that he was shot from the side, that the bullet entered from the side, that he was actually turning. There's absolutely no evidence that his hands were in the air. This was all fabricated by the state of New Jersey. And the media was a willing participant, jumping right in from the very beginning to print whatever hearsay they heard. Well, the man you speak of came to the courtroom one time, stayed in the second row, and slept for about an hour and a half. So that shows you his interest in the case. Very quick to fly off to another country, though, where the television cameras are waiting for him.
Right.
All the time on these particular people. Why? Aren't you supposed to go to California? Or go somewhere? Aren't you leaving here? You can't get away from New York? You complain continuously. Why? I don't understand it. If you, what do you got? I mean, is your contract up anytime soon? Or do you open up with the black people all the time against this people? I mean, you want to go somewhere. What is the complaint? Why don't you go? What's holding you here? You know, you can say something, you say so many things, but you always open up with the black guy. I think they're the one that's kind of keeping your show together. If you don't have nothing to talk about, you don't have no show. Why is that, please? Can you tell me?
I want to congratulate you, Jay, for being independently wealthy, or on some public assistance. You probably have a card like that thug who robbed my friend the other night.
There you go.
Because you're able to sit there and monitor the program.
But no, I'm listening to you. But you see, I'm talking.
What do you do? By the way, Jay, what do you do besides listen to the Bob Grant Show?
Going to work in half an hour.
And I'm grateful that you do. I'm grateful that you do, Jay, because after all, you're part of that big audience that just keeps getting bigger. No matter how much thugs like you complain, the audience gets bigger and bigger.
Don't cut me off. Listen, you said you're going down to Australia, right?
You will know when I'm going to leave. You will know when I'm going to leave.
Yeah, but please, hurry up.
Really? Jay, let me ask you a very simple question.
No problem.
Who's forcing you to listen to the Bob Grant Show?
Well, after the day I stop, I swear to God.
Hey, listen, I got news for you. In 1994, when I leave, you're going to be lonesome. Your life will be empty, even emptier than it is now. You skunk.
Also to educate and to inspire these people to do things better and stop reverting back to old opinions about certain groups and certain people in our, in our societies. And I say this because, I was listening to you for about 45 minutes today, and you had a couple of calls who disagreed about the Gary Spath trial. And basically, instead of trying to understand what they were coming from, sir, you basically called them scum. You called them scum. You questioned one man being more wealthy because he was listening to you in the afternoon as if he wasn't working anything, and I don't think that's going to be helpful in trying to make people understand what really happened in Teaneck, New Jersey, regardless of whether or not you agree with the decision or not. But as somebody such as you who has the authority to be in a position to talk to a whole lot of people, you should take more of a position to inform people and not just, bash them all the time just because they disagree with you. That's basically my comment. That's all I had to say. Thanks, sir.
Well, you're overlooking something. I'm not here as an educator.
Okay.
I do not fancy myself as a leader. I do not fancy myself as a reformer. I'm not here to instruct.
Okay.
I give my opinions. They are honest opinions.
Mm-hmm.
They may not always be in line with what even the majority of my listeners are thinking, but they are honest opinions.
Okay, I understand.
And furthermore, you obviously are a great deal younger than I am. So maybe you have a little more idealism, the same idealism I once had.
Okay.
But I guarantee, are you listening to me, or are you just saying okay to sound like you're listening to me?
Sir, I am listening to you.
Because I don't understand why people have to keep saying okay. Sounds like you're getting bored.
I'm listening to you.
Well, I'm bored with you. You're a little schmuck. Get off my phone.
Oh, shut up, please.
See, now you heard him say, "Oh, shut up." Here's a guy, and I'll tell you why I did that, folks. I wanted to smoke him out. He was pretending that he was just so righteous and that he was put upon this earth to be a great font of wisdom and a great source of shall we say, a great source as an arbitrator, as a person who is not cursed by having human opinions and human emotions. A sanctimonious, pompous little punk is what he is.
Your ignorant, uneducated, low-class listeners, your anti-Semitism, your racism against blacks, I don't understand this at all. I just don't understand it.
First of all, you said you listen for laughs.
I'm turning the channel, and I think...
Wait, stop. Don't be... Wait a minute.
Sure.
Stand your ground, but...
I will.
But don't be rude. Don't be cutting in. I want to dissect what you've said. Are you afraid of that?
No, go ahead, please.
All right. You said, and I quote you, I listen for laughs. Apparently, you find those remarks which you allege I'm making to be humorous.
I find them ridiculous to the point of laughter.
Well, that's fine. Tell me some of the anti-Semitic remarks, will you? Because this is a new one on me. The racist I've heard many times, but the anti-Semitic I haven't. Tell me what I've said that's anti-Semitic.
Anything that you might say that might be termed racism against blacks are also clumped together with anti-Semitism as the next group to be ridiculed by people such as yourself.
What are you doing, reading my mind? You're saying, aha, next is going to be Jews? Is that what you're saying?
You seem to do that with...
Wait a minute. You know, first you come out and you make a charge.
Yes.
Now you're using terms like you might. Now you're saying you seem. You were so sure of yourself a moment ago.
I am very sure of myself about that.
No, you're not sure at all. You know what you are? You are a misguided failure of a creep.
You are a scumball skunk. Long live Cuomo and Florio. To hell with Spath. That's the way it is.
Hey, listen, I tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like you to describe yourself to the audience so we know what you look like. Describe yourself.
I won't give in to...
Okay, then you're out. You're out. You little worm. Carmine, hello. Are you there, Carmine? From Staten Island. Carmine. Fangulate, Carmine. You don't want to wait on the line? Too bad, pal.
But one thing I also want to take issue is with the lady from Belgium, or if that was a lady who wrote that letter. I wanted to know if your listeners are aware that the king, Leopold II, when he was over the Congo, he killed 14 million Congolese.
14 million?
Yes, sir. They had yes, sir. And the British and the...
that's absurd. Not 14 million. Cut it out.
Sir, no. Let's come out of the Encyclopedia Britannica.
It did not.
All right, sir.
You're just making it up. Yeah, okay, Clarence, you just expose yourself as a fake and a phony. You come up with a figure. I challenge the figure, and you say, get off the phone, you bum. He comes up with a fake, phony figure, and then I question him. He says, this is the Encyclopedia Britannica. Guy would know an Encyclopedia Britannica if you had dropped it on his head. Like your role model, Frank of Queens.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, John. Thank you. Bob? Frank. A guy who, unfortunately, is running for president in the most devious way. He happens to also be paid to be the governor of the state of New York. I have known this man personally for many, many years. We've talked about this privately. And he has told me that this is the thing that concerns most people, including him, the most. That is why when push comes to shove and there is a racial issue involved, you will find that he will back down. He would never attempt to say anything that might upset the black community. That's why he panders. In my view, that's why he panders to the black community.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the verbal condemnation. I'm talking about the silence that he had during the Tawana Brawley hoax, for example. But they're all panders. Look, you've got some bald-headed jerk by the name of Abrams running for the Senate, who was called a Nazi by all of Tawana Banana's supporters. Did he ever say anything? No, not a word. Not a word.
Bye-bye.
Richie's on WABC. Hello. Are you there, Richie?
Hello, Bob.
Yes.
How are you? Bob, I've been listening to you all this time. I like you very much. You're very intelligent. I want to ask you a question. Money. Rich and poor. A subterfuge is a thought, isn't it?
What's that?
What I mean is rich and poor.
What about it?
We all need each other, don't we?
No, not necessarily.
Well, do you need somebody to work on your car? Can you fix your car?
Somebody needs somebody sometime.
Hello?
Hello? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you don't want to listen to me, Bob?
No, I just
You
think
want to sing a song?
you just sound like a Gavone, but go ahead anyway.
I'm a Gavone. We all need each other. We all accept each other.
No, that isn't. That isn't true. Cut it out.
Cut it out. The way you live.
I beg your pardon?
The way you live, the money.
Nah.
You need everybody. We all
you don't
need
everybody.
each other.
Nah, you don't need everybody. That's a myth.
It's a myth?
If you have money, you don't need everybody. As a matter of fact, if you have money, you talk about a mechanic, right?
Yeah.
You pay the mechanic. You pay the mechanic. He's not doing it because he loves you. He's not doing it because you're in distress. When you go to a doctor, he's not taking care of you because he really cares about you. You're going to pay him. And believe you me, those blood-sucking doctors, with one exception, I must admit.
Right, Bob. Now,
what?
Do you pay for everything in life?
Well, I don't pay for love. How about you?
Do you pay when you go in the bathroom and wipe yourself?
Oh, get off my phone.
on,
You're a real Gavone. You're a real Gavone. Richie. When a grown man introduces himself as Richie, you know you're in trouble. Hey, Bob, I think you're very intelligent. 2 minutes later, he's arguing with me. Yeah, jerk, Richie, get off my phone for keeps, will you?
Sure. Does that mean that the rest of the city has instituted it, or are they voting it down, or is it going to be pushed down our throats?
Well, inevitably it will be, because they will win due to the fact that the rest of the 90% straight people, and by the way, not all homosexuals are that goofy. There's the silent. I don't know if it's majority, but there are homosexuals who really don't go along with this. They want to live their lives. They don't want to bother anybody, and they don't want anybody to bother them, and they don't want to shove it down anybody's throat.
Well, I realize that.
But this militant group keeps winning victory after victory after victory, because the politicians, like Il Supremo, he panders to them. He has. I remember when he paid tribute to a guy that, thank God, he dropped dead of AIDS. He was his what the heck was he? His liaison to the gay community. I mean, if we're all Americans, here's what I don't understand. If we are all Americans, if this is one nation, regardless of whether you're homosexual, white, black, if we are all, what do we need these liaisons to a community, a liaison?
Yes, and see, the thing that I have a problem with, Mr. Grant, is these are the people that just told me all they want to do is to be left alone.
My foot.
But they don't. They want to infringe on my privacy and tell me how to raise my kids.
Look what they're doing to the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Exactly. Well, they should cancel the parade as far as I'm concerned. I mean, heck with this. The Hibernians are, well...
Hey, look, if a guy is gay and he says, listen, I'm Irish, I want to march in the St. Patrick's Day parade, fine, nobody's stopping him. Why does he have to carry a banner saying, we're the gay group, we're the gays, we're the gay group, we want everybody to know we're that way.
I'd like to be able to march.
Dictated by fear. The riots encouraged by Shoppy Sharpton, the 2-ton racist, and the racist community, was an attempt to sway the verdict ever since the second grand jury was convened. Fear of reprisal, not justice, was the guiding factor. Gary was a political scapegoat for Flim Flam Florio and his stooge, Triumph Twice Del Tufo. There was no precedent for calling a second grand jury last year. The argument for a second grand jury was based on the testimony of a Dr. DeForest, who never wrote his statements down, nor did he appear for questioning during the trial. But he was quoted extensively. Let's clear up some facts here, for heaven's sake. Many of the prosecution's witnesses had been caught in lies where their testimony in the trial conflicted with their earlier testimony before the grand jury. Did you know that? Isn't there such a crime? Isn't there a law against perjury? These witnesses, similar to the hysteria during the Salem witch trials, seem to have the luxury of lying and making false accusations without the threat of suffering the consequences of shamelessly committing perjury. But Gary's story never wavered. Deception has been rampant in the press's coverage of this story, to the prosecution's cunning twisting of the facts. They preyed on the emotion and fostered the racial bigotry which has torn the Teaneck area decisively. Blacks should not be proud of what has occurred. No, they should be ashamed of how they could allow Officer Spath, an 8-year veteran, to be victimized as he was. The pictures of Pinnell from day one showed a smiling grammar school kid. Bold headlines from Jesse called Gary an assassin. How dare he come in and say that? Witness after witness, some of whom were not there, proclaimed they heard one thing or another. Often their stories changed after obviously collaborating with their peers. The initial riot was a stern warning to the community not to allow this servant of the state go free. The town actually spent hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, in preparation of another riot anticipated by the black community. This is not justice. This is anarchy. Observe the facts as they were laid out that day in 1990. A black man called the police for help. That's right, a black man made the call. Because he watched as a black person wearing the clothes Pinnell was wearing was brandishing a gun in front of others in the playground. Officers Blanco and Spath, unfortunately, were called to address this potentially dangerous situation. They were told to go directly to the scene where some unknown was in possession of a firearm. With a number of police shot at in New York City, one can only imagine the thoughts going through their heads when they came to the aid of the caller. They had no choice. As police, they had to go to the scene. Pinnell was wearing the uniform of a street gang named the Violators. They were not Boy Scouts. When the police arrived, three things were clear. Pinnell was wearing the red jacket which the original caller identified him as wearing. He attempted to elude the law. He had a fully loaded gun on his person. Knowing this, the officers did what they needed to do in order to protect themselves and the other individuals in the immediate vicinity. He was shot in self-defense. Gary had 3 incidences of firing his gun in the line of duty in 8 years of service. He, of course, had a legitimate right to carry and use a firearm in the protection of a sometimes violent society. Everyone had an opportunity to see this record of Officer Spath, but no one got the opportunity to view Pinnell's record. How many times did he assault others? How many times was he arrested? How many times did he fire that gun in his possession? How many people were destined to be shot if Spath had not arrived as he did? Well, Pinnell had at least 5 to 7 scrapes with the law. He had a history of violence. And while Gary helped abuse kids, sharing personal time with underprivileged families, coached children's soccer, Pinnell roamed the streets in search of perhaps another victim. And he found one in Gary Spath. Gary has been exonerated. His name has been cleared and justice will be served. And Paul Sullivan, Gary's brother-in-law, says, I only pray that my friend and brother-in-law can put his life back together, regain his incredible, infectious sense of humor, and be the person we have always known and loved.
To do, I don't know if he's doing it for publicity or if he's doing it for any other reasons. I really don't see Mr. Tyson going away for some amount of time. I would just wonder if you would agree with that.
Well, as I've said on the program, and a lot of people didn't like it, I see no point to his being sent to the slammer.
See, now that's the one thing I agree with you, because they're making it like, I mean, the woman was obviously after some type of money.
Hey, you know, he didn't jump out of a dark alley and grab her and beat her up. And,
that's right.
And force her into a situation.
That's right.
He was with him willingly, and it's her word against his as to actually to what happened.
It's hearsay. Now, I mean, obviously, if he called her up at 1:30 in the morning, I don't think they were going to just have tea and cookies or watch Planet of the Apes or something on TV at that time.
I disagree with you about the role model bit. I think that they could pick a lot of other individuals for a role model.
I think John Amos is a top role model, the actor on
Well, I
TV.
mean, there are so many. There are so many. Why does it have to be this guy? So I disagree with you in terms of that he should be kept out because he's a role model. As far as Donald Trump is concerned, who knows what scheme he's really got in mind.
Exactly.
But
that's the first word. I must say one thing, but I'm sorry to interrupt. I must say that's the first words I used. It is some type of a scheme because I don't believe he does anything wholeheartedly.
Well, if he's doing it, he's not doing it out of any concern for Mike.
It's not exactly. He's not doing it out of any concern.
I mean, I like the idea. Heck, if they could raise money and you see, I see no point in putting the guy away.
There would be no
point in it.
There was the Bush headquarters in New Hampshire on Elm Street. They smashed his windows.
now, nobody was arrested. They were punching people. They were getting into fights with different groups. And yet, they just went on as though they were immune. And you know, the funny thing, Bob, they didn't have a special color melanin. They had this other thing. You know, they were immune by their, by, what would you call it? By
because they're double-gated, because they're perverted, because they are sexual deviants, they were protected.
That's right. And what they did, Bob, is they put like a crimp in what would be a normal, interesting part of our political freedom.
Well, there was a photo in one of the newspapers showing two of these limp-wristed jerks kissing each other.
Well, they were doing that all along, and they were trying to taunt the different people at the different groups. But then guess who was in the middle of the group, getting hugged and kissing and throwing kisses while they were smashing the Bush campaign? Dr. Leonora Falani of the New Alliance Party.
Of course.
She is their hero. So all I can tell you, you know where these people are coming from, Bob? It's you know, when they talk about people being intolerant to gays, the most intolerant people I've ever come across in my life are the gays. They have no respect for the elderly. They have no respect for anybody.
Why don't you realize
they don't respect themselves, Bob?
That's right. There you go. I was just about to say, the key is they hate themselves, and if you hate yourself, you're going to hate everybody else. You cannot have any kind of affection for anybody else if you hate yourself.
Well, it was really tragic to watch them, and they ought to be pitied, Bob. If it wasn't so that they're such an aberration to society, they should be pitied. They are freaks.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I want to say that I am a member of Queer Nation, and you should not.
Oh, you're not a member of Queer Nation. Are you auditioning? Alice,
listen,
you're on.
The Asbury Park Press in Jersey here is running the whole month of February about Black history. I have a novel idea, Bob. How about a whole month for American history? With all our new immigrants, don't you think they should know something about our American history? They're not teaching it in schools properly. But I thought that would be a good idea.
Well, they wouldn't do that unless they got the approval from their bosses over at the NAACP.
No, American history. Oh, their book?
I'm talking.
Oh, the Asbury Park Press. Yeah, that's a liberal paper. I think I'll stop reading it. I know a lot of people are canceling their subscription. Bob, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
You know, I'm out of Brooklyn for 28 years, and I thank God every day that I'm out of there. But I pick up the papers in I was reading the Daily News one day in Voice of the People. This person was in the subway, and he said that two youngsters between 11 and 12-year-olds were using the condoms as slingshots. They shot him in the eye. And if it wasn't for his glasses and thick lenses, he would have been blinded. I mean, really, there goes your taxpayers' money for condoms. So, that's it, Bob.
Thank you, Alice.
You're welcome.
You know, it's very difficult to come in here and not feel after just 1 hour that you want to go out and take a shower. There's no reflection on Alice or any of the callers, but just what they are talking about. Jesse Jackson has criticized the level of debate among the Democratic presidential contenders. Listen to this. He said he's under pressure to become a candidate himself. A pressure from whom? Mario? He says, while I'm not running for the nomination, I am campaigning to change the country. Well, we know that. We know that, Jesse. We know you've been campaigning to change the country. Yeah, you won't rest until you've got Fidel over here raising the hammer and sickle. He says there is obviously a lot of pressure on me to reconsider. Public service is always an option. He means public screwing, not public service. I have not made that decision. He's beginning to sound like a version of Il Supremo.
Tax plan?
Yes.
Well, I was really surprised to hear you get behind that. I don't know, maybe you didn't do the math.
The flat tax?
Yeah, do you realize how many middle-class people that would hurt?
Don't ask me loaded questions, pal.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll give you an example. I just finished my taxes. I made almost exactly $38,000, which is not a lot of money for living in New York.
You should welcome a flat tax.
Not really. I'm a homeowner, and when you take out my property tax and my mortgage interest, I paid almost $1,800 in federal tax.
Well, why should that be deductible? Tell me, why should that be deductible? I have the same deductions. I pay interest. I pay real estate taxes, and I'm happy for the deduction. But I say to myself, why is this deductible? Why aren't a lot of other things deductible? Why do we play favorites with one industry? Why?
Oh, we've had a policy.
Why should a lot of people who don't have those deductions have to take up the slack for those of us who get the deduction?
Well, we've had a policy to encourage home ownership.
And wouldn't if you had 13% flat tax,
I'd pay an extra $1,100 a year.
Well, fine, pay an extra
$3,100 a year.
Pay an extra $1,100 a year and help the economy.
My tax would have gone from 18.
Hey, look, Jim, relax. It's not going to fly. It makes too much sense. It's too fair. It's not going to happen. So don't worry about it. There are too many vested interests who will not allow it to happen. Besides, Jerry Brown's not going to get elected. So you can relax. Go have fun with your tax form. You can drop it in the mail, take it over to Marvin or whoever's doing your taxes. And
That's not a difficult form. I did it myself, but to pay an extra $3,000?
Thank you, Jim.
However, one would never know it. It's instead, fuss is made early on in January, as you said in your monologue, January 15th. That's an important date.
That has become the key date. That has become our quintessential holiday. As a matter of fact, in 10 years, that will overshadow far and away anything else in this country.
Correct. That and April 22nd, which is
about this Martin Luther King bashing that seems to be going on in your show. You started it with your opening monologue about presidents and this and that, and then you made kind of an oblique sideways reference to January 15th. And I don't know, recently some other caller just picked up on it. And, it's... I'm just curious, you're not really elaborating on it, I'm just curious.
How long have you started listening to the Bob Grant Show?
How long? Well, I listen to it on and off.
Well, this is nothing new, pal. You act like it's a new revelation. And there's also a tone in your voice to suggest that you're shocked. My gosh, I thought everybody had been brainwashed. I thought everybody had been brought in line. I thought everybody knew the marching orders.
Well, you're wrong.
The marching orders.
Well, why don't you? I mean, I'm sure there's other people that are curious, too. I'm not.
Well, there's nothing to be curious about. I just happen to think that it is a sacred thing. It is a very special thing to have a day, a national holiday in a person's honor. I don't take that lightly.
Well, you don't think Martin Luther King made a significant contribution?
No, absolutely not. He doesn't. No, I don't. I don't believe he deserves a day in his honor. I think that the politicians who passed that legislation and the president who signed it did so because of political pressure. Because in their heart of hearts, I think a good many of them, probably most of them, didn't really believe that they should be doing it. But they did it anyway.
Well, I don't know how you could make a statement.
I just made it, jerk.
Well,
make a comment about the teacher in Neptune. I guess his name's Mr. Rose.
No, his name is Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark, okay.
How'd you get Rose out of that?
I don't know. I don't know. I think the heat he's getting down there in Neptune is fully justified, and I'd like to explain why. In considering that high academic standards are very important, I feel that teachers are hired as professionals.
High academic standards?
Yes, high academic standards.
They have high academic standards at that particular school?
No, we have to be concerned that high academic standards are being practiced in the schools.
The man has been teaching, listen, the man has been teaching for 20 years.
Okay.
Nobody has found anything lacking in his teaching.
Okay.
Nobody has found anything lacking in his academic achievements.
Okay, he's been doing what he's been doing for 20 years. What I feel is that teachers are hired as professionals to convey ideas as part of their responsibilities.
He was hired to teach American literature, not African propaganda.
Well, no, he wasn't hired. He was hired to teach history, but I think
he was not hired to teach history. I told you he was hired to teach literature.
Literature. Okay, I'm a little bit nervous. It's the first time I've called in 15 years.
Oh, my. For 15 years? You've been saving this up for 15 years?
No, but I think this is very important. I feel that if he was being hired for the position or taking an oral thesis for a master's program, and he expressed those views about an area of history in such a shabby, reckless, and careless way, he would not have been hired as a teacher in the first place. I think if...
First of all, he didn't express anything in the classroom. I happen to agree with the man, but he didn't express that in the classroom. He didn't express that in the classroom. He called the Bob Grant radio show, just as you are. How would you... What's your job? Where do you work?
Well, I'm looking for work. I'm in between work.
Oh, I see. In other words, you're a bum out of work.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Here's a guy. He's a big authority on academic standards, coming in with his pompous sophomoric approach to the conversation.
Listen, let me make this analogy. If a police officer has parties at his home off hours and serves people who are underage, or a politician juggles books for the family business.
Wait a minute. Are you giving his statement the equivalency of committing a crime of juggling the books?
Well, what I'm saying,
is that the equivalency you're giving this?
In a sense that it would bring
you're really
right.
You're really beyond. You know what? You don't believe in the Constitution of the United States. The man called a talk show and he expressed an opinion. I'm not saying you have to agree with that opinion. Maybe you know a little more about what goes on the continent of Africa than he does. Maybe it was a little harsh. That's a cause for him to lose his job?
Well, it takes away from his professionalism.
Oh, get off my phone, you creep. I can't believe that.
With Jeffrey Dahmer, how much is it going to cost us per year to keep this guy in prison?
Well, it's going to cost the people of Wisconsin roughly $28,500 a year.
Yeah, do they have any homeless people there?
You know, he said he would have preferred the death penalty, but he can't get it in Wisconsin because Wisconsin is one of those lefty, loony states that you can't get executed no matter what you do, even if you're a monster like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah. Maybe they should, cut him up and, feed him to the homeless people.
On WABC, let's say hello to Vincent. Get off the phone, you creep. Vincent, you're on WABC. Hello.
The man, I'm talking about one individual, George Bush.
Yeah, what is it he's doing you don't like?
Oh, God. You have a half hour?
Yeah, just give me one, pal. Just one. Save the jokes for later. For tonight, when you appear in that fourth-rate outhouse out in Queens. Go ahead. What is on your mind, Tom? Give me one. Give me one, you dope. Every time you call, you make a complete jackass of yourself.
Every time.
Aren't you? Let me hear you go.
When's the last time I called you?
The last time you called? The last time I had agita. That's the last time you called.
Oh, baloney.
So what's your problem?
Come on.
What do you want?
Listen, the guy, first of all...
No. Tell me what it is you want. Don't talk about the guy. I'm no great lover of the guy. But tell me what it is you want.
From Bush?
No. What do you want from a president? What do you want to do? What would you want to do with policy?
I want a president who upholds the Constitution.
Upholds the Constitution?
Is that good enough for you?
No, that's a cop-out.
Oh, no.
No, what is your problem? What is your problem? Here, get off, you jerk. Why do I come in here and talk with these lowlifes for heaven's sake?
Concerning the business of Mr. Mayor Dinkins and the cable stock, there's been all kinds of stuff, speculation as to when the stock was transferred to his son and the gift tax, etc. But nobody has mentioned one elementary thing, and that is what is a city official, Mr. Dinkins, doing with that cable stock in the first place? Here we have a city official, a member of the Board of Estimate, who is in a position to vote on city franchisees holding cable stock.
Well, it's a conflict of interest, and if he didn't have that protective coating of melanin, he never would have been elected. He probably would have been...
who cares when it was
by the way, two investigations, count them, two, said there was circumstantial evidence that wrongdoing had occurred. Andrew Maloney conducted one of them. The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, he conducted one of them. He said there was circumstantial evidence that wrongdoing had occurred. How come they never pursued it?
And what makes anyone think that Mayor Dinkins' possible conflict of interest is negated by transferring the stock to his son?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that report also said that the letter, the so-called Dear Dad letter, seemed to be a made-up letter. That it was not accepted as, shall we say, kosher.
Shocking, isn't it?
Well, no, not shocking. Shocking would be if, as a result of all of that, they would have done something about it.
Yes, you're right.
What's really shocking is that people just shrug it off. They accept it. Does this mean that they figure someone of Dinkins' background, that's what do you expect from someone like that? And the blacks who supported him, they should be outraged, too. They should say, hey, we get a mayor. We elect our first black mayor, and he turns out to be a sleazebag. But they don't say that.
You're right.
Nobody is saying anything. And yet it's there. It's there. It's always been there. Even the New York Times had to report it. Even the New York Times had to report it. And they didn't make any editorial comment on that. What they did make it was editorial comment on this obscenity known as Laura Blackburn. Thank you for the call. I think it was something like Sheikh Abbas Musawi or something like that.
Right.
Sheikh Abbas Musawi.
He said the United States should have done that a long time ago.
Oh, question. Well, of course we should have done it a long time ago, except it wasn't all that easy because Israel's been trying to get him for a long time, but they got a report that he was on that particular road in South Lebanon, and bingo, they got him. They've been looking for him, but he made a slip up. He made a mistake, and he was out there on the road.
Right, and another thing
he was blown to bits. Isn't that delicious?
Great, Bob. And I'm
wondering, this skunk Sheikh Abbas Musawi is the one who ordered the deaths of 241 Marines, remember?
Right.
And who was responsible for the hanging of Lieutenant Colonel Higgins.
Right, and it appears that McDonald's are now handing out free tapes on the history of the black Afro-American. And don't you think this is a little bit of a double standard here?
Yeah, it is. Well, they have pandered to the black community as much, if not more, than any commercial enterprise.
I mean, let's face it. If anybody else tried to get away with this, handing out the history of the Irish or the Italians, I mean, it's a crime.
Well, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. And the question is, what is the reason? Is anybody set these people down? I'm not talking about McDonald's. I'm talking about anybody that's involved with this and said, wait a minute, what is the reason? What is the damn reason for it? Why does it go on year after year after year? What are you trying to prove? In my opinion, and I'm not, this is not original with me, even blacks like Thomas Sowell say this, what they're trying to do is a con job on themselves. You know, there was a French hypnotist, mesmerist, call him what you will, by the name of Émile Coué. And he actually believed that you could change everything about yourself by essentially repeating every day this phrase. In every way, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And they found that the people who were practicing that were people who were absolute losers, people who just hadn't made it in life. And guess what? The more they repeated that, the worse they got. So it's like a con job you're trying to give on yourself. I'm really great. I'm really great. Great about what? Thank you for the call.
Well, I agree with you.
Why do you ask?
Well, I feel there's many people I talk to who have never heard of it. So by mentioning it on your program, I hope...
well, a lot of people don't watch PBS because they'd rather be like Mike Cacciopoli, our screener, would rather watch a basketball game, a hockey game, a baseball game, worry about Danny Tartabull, the important things in life. Thank you very much.
Disgusting the way the indignant, selfish Laura Blackburn is attempting to run her, what she believes, little fiefdom there, forcing people to work in rat-infested squalor while she spent $345,000 to pretty up the place, to give her luxury. This broad must really have a lot on the men's room attendant. Yeah, she's looking down her nose at everybody, and nothing's going to happen to her because her superior, he should be in jail.
That's right.
And he should be thankful.
Well, she probably figured Hazel Dukes got away with it, so why shouldn't I? See, that's what they think. Here we have New York in the worst fiscal crisis, the worst fiscal condition it has ever been, and they're ripping us off. Blinds, $7,500. A sofa, what was the sofa? $3,800? I mean, just goes on and on and on. $344,000 in renovating the place. And she takes a trip, goes first class, stays at $350 a night hotels.
She thinks she's a little Marie Antoinette there.
Well, apparently she is, because she looks in the mirror and she says, melanin, stay right where you are. Now, if she woke up and she lost that melanin, then what would happen to her?
Then she'd have to perform instead of just walk in.
Right. Thanks, Joe.
I don't think Patrick Buchanan would agree there.
Well, I'm Bob Grant. What have I got to do with Patrick Buchanan or George Bush or Paul Tsongas or anybody?
Well, you speak for a cause, don't you?
A cause?
Mm-hmm.
What cause?
The cause of the right.
No, I don't speak for the cause of the right. I'm talking to you right now about a question that you asked me. I don't approach things from an ideological standpoint. I don't look it up in the lexicon and see what as a right-winger I should be saying, you dope, immature jerk.
I wanted to call you the other day when you were talking about President's Day and our non-observance of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm really angry. Our state university, Rutgers University, did not observe President's Day, although they did close down and observe Martin Luther King's Day.
Whoa, and of course, Martin King Day, that's far more important.
But this is our state university and our taxpayers supported, and it really makes me furious.
But you see, if they didn't observe Martin King Day, there would be trouble from the savages. And that's really what is the guiding principle anymore with institutions, with political leaders. That's the guiding principle. What's going to cause the trouble? Oh, well, if we don't observe President's Day, nobody's really going to cause any trouble. But if, heaven forbid, we don't observe Martin King Day, oh, my heavens to Betsy.
Well, I'm beginning to feel that this country is like a big elephant with a bunch of jackals snapping at its heels. And one day, that elephant is going to turn around and stomp those jackals.
Auf Wiedergesucht. I thank you.
Here about a $3,100 couch. We're talking about a woman who fails to safeguard the taxpayers' money wherever she is. We're talking about millions of dollars, and there was no need for a fare increase. So what Senator D'Amato should hopefully demand, which many people are demanding now, is that the U.S. Attorney investigate the MTA Inspector General's report of January 1989, during which Laura Blackburn perjured herself under subpoenaed testimony. And I think the people should be aware of this because it's their money, and who is going to enforce the laws in New York?
Well, you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more, Bill, and I hope this is only the beginning of the end of this person who has abused her position beyond belief. And by the way, in her arrogance, she continues to act as though she did nothing wrong, but we know she did. What is upsetting to me, even beyond this outrageous activity, is the men's room attendant says he still regards her as one of his best commissioners. That must mean that the other commissioners are pretty bad. This proves that the men's room attendant is totally, even more unfit for the office than I knew him to be.
Well, you have a clear violation of law here at the MTA, and certainly someone in New York has to enforce the law.
All right, thank you very much.
And Bob, I always wondered how to spell Gavone, and I'm glad that you spelled it now. Cacazos, is that C or G?
That's a C. C-A-C-A. That's the first word. And the second word is Z-O-T-E.
My great-grandfather was hanged for his efforts. My father, who lost an arm, was beaten after he came back for eating at a white lunch counter. Today, my son, 14, went down to Madison Avenue to buy me a birthday gift and came home in tears because of the way he was treated. I do not consider myself an American citizen because most Americans, specifically your listeners, consider me a second-class American.
How do you know?
To hear them on your show,
well,
to see how people react to me when I go into Bergdorf Goodman and I am followed, to hear about employment agencies that specifically canvass for AAs, all Americans.
I think you're making a political speech here not based on reality.
Well, the reality of Norrell Employment Agency having specific categories.
They turned you down?
No, when they called me, they asked me if I was black because certain companies do not want black
Really?
people.
They told you that?
Mr. Grant,
they told you. They told you. I am asking you. They told you that unequivocally. Yes. They told you that.
They had a category called AA, which
they told you what you're quoting them as saying.
Yes.
I don't believe you. I think you're a bald-faced liar. I think you're a fake.
Mr. Grant,
I think you're a phony.
Many times and not just to
get
me.
off my phone, you phony. Did you know that in 1983, at the height, this is not a commercial. It's not like I'm giving you a commercial. At the height of President Reagan's confrontation of the Soviet Union, which of course ultimately succeeded in destroying the Soviet military threat, that the swimmer made a secret approach to top Soviet and KGB leaders. It is now revealed because the KGB has opened some of its files. I don't say all of their files, but they have opened some. He sought to discredit the defense policy of the Reagan administration and to offer the Soviets an opportunity to argue their peaceful intentions on American television. Well, it turns out that a reporter for the London Sunday Times researching the recently opened files of the KGB in Moscow has discovered a top-secret file of correspondence between a Russian by the name of Viktor Chebrikov, who was then chairman of the KGB and later became General Secretary of the Communist Party and chief of the Soviet Union, and General Secretary Yuri Andropov. The file shows that Chebrikov had been approached by Teddy Kennedy, the swimmer, about improving relations between the United States and the USSR in ways that undercut the policy of the United States. And Chebrikov thought the approach so important that he sought the advice of the highest authority in his country. And the Sunday Times of London story says that Chebrikov related to Andropov that he was approached on May 9th and 10th in 1983 by former U.S. Senator John Tunney, a Democrat of California, a member of the far left, on behalf of his friend, the swimmer. And the Soviets appeared to believe this was a request from the swimmer for help to counteracting Ronald Reagan's arms policy. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So once again, more evidence as to why the swimmer should be retired from public life, and the sooner the better. Let's hope Governor Weld runs against him and defeats him in 1994. Called from Old Bridge, barely started his conversation prior to the news. And if you're still there, Phil, go right ahead.
Okay, Mr. Grant, get back to it. You know, when your 5:30 show comes to conclusion and the 9 o'clock show is ready to come on, they get together, the two vipers get together, and this morning they were discussing Schwarzenegger's penis. And I was only thinking to myself, the gentleman who is part of the early show was right into it, discussing it. I mean, as an Italian-American man, if my wife would discuss, my wife is right here, and if my wife would discuss anybody's penis in front of me, I mean, believe me, I don't think she'd ever do it, but, I mean, there'd be a lot of trouble in this house.
Well, you're from a different generation.
But anyway,
Phil,
Mr. Grant.
I mean, I'm not...
May I please finish, Mr. Grant?
I'm just reminding you that you're from a different generation. You don't relate to folks...
I don't think that has anything to do with it, Mr. Grant.
Well, I think it has something to do with it.
Yeah, and in other words, anybody that's born after me is a sleazeball?
Well, you could put it that way. You could put it that way. Hey, Phil, you could put it that way. Phil, I don't look. I don't know why. I don't know why you get obstreperous when I remind you of a truth. You may not like it. Hey, look, Phil. Hey, Phil, I feel the same way you do. I'm just reminding you that these are people from a younger generation than yours. That's all.
Well, Mr. Grant, let me put it this way. I knew Lenny Mancini pretty well, and I know his son Ray. And Ray was interviewed by that viper that comes on at 9 o'clock, and she discussed his sexual habits while he's in training. I want you to know that Ray Mancini was so embarrassed, he didn't know whether to S or go blind when that viper, who is of Italian extract. I don't understand this. And you know what I don't understand? I don't understand the male compatriot of the 9 o'clock show that refers to his own, supposedly his own kind, as a cheech and a cugine. I'd like to see some intelligent young Jewish fella refer to his kind as a kike. He would never do it.
Well, wait. First of all,
a cheech.
First of all, his show goes on at 5:30. It doesn't go on at 9. It goes off at 9.
It goes off. That's what it says.
So what is wrong with a cheech? What is that?
A cheech?
Yeah.
A cheech to me is degrading person of Italian.
No, that's frank. Cheech is frank. Chuch is donkey.
No. a cheech, an Italian immigrant, Mr. Grant.
Really?
An Italian immigrant.
Well,
Mr. Grant, let me give you I told you one time before that there was
you got a lot of problems, Phil. You know you really do.
I do?
You really do.
Well, thanks for keeping me honest long, because I must have
No, you really do. No, you really, Phil, you're incredible. You really have a lot of problems.
I do?
Yeah, you really do. You're a bitter, you're a bitter man.
What am I bitter about?
You tell me why every time you call
you get mad at Mario Cuomo because he won't do an interview.
No, I don't get mad at Mario Cuomo. I get mad at him because
he's very vindictive
because he's a New Deal ultra left wing.
He does not do an interview with you. Al D'Amato does an interview with you. But what's his name? The governor.
Wait a minute. I didn't know that your call was about El Supremo. I thought your call.
No, it's about what.
Why are you changing? Phil, why are you
put a guilt trip on me? And you're not going to do it today, Mr. Grant.
I'm not trying to put.
Because you know something, Mr. Grant? You and Manelli are responsible for that Polish guy who claims to be half Italian. His mother comes from
Why are you so preoccupied?
And she met some Polish guy with one eye and a patch over the other eye.
Cut it out. Listen, what are you putting down Polish people, you jerk?
No, I'm not.
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah, it sounds like you are. You know what, Phil? Phil, let me tell you something about you.
Good night, Mr. Grant.
Let me tell you something about you. You are a small, ignorant, bigoted Gavone.
Possible. You are a scumbag. You will always be a scumbag. In fact, you take it up the ass. You know you do.
I don't believe you. You know, here you... Whoa. That one I had to cut. I got it. I get a kick out of you people when a guy says that, the inevitable F word, you go like you never heard it before. I got it. I swear I got it. I got it. Phil showed what he is. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the last time I will take a call from Phil of Old Bridge. That is the last time. Remember this, Mark Perman and that neophyte in back of you there, that acolyte? That guy is persona non grata. I don't ever want to take a call from that low-life, hypocrite, louse again. I gave him the time of day. I tried to dignify him by paying attention to what I was saying and tried to entertain. You heard the conversation. I have been putting up with Phil of Old Bridge from when he was Phil of Ozone Park. And what's the matter? We didn't get it? We didn't get the F word? Oh, we got the F word. All right, so what are you talking? You know, it's very difficult for me to concentrate on what I'm saying when I see the two of you look like you're going to walk the plank going to your death. Call Chairman Murphy on the phone right now. Okay, Mr. Murphy, don't fire Susan Ronneberger and Mark Perman. They didn't do anything wrong. Okay, fine, everything's okay. It's cool. All right, you're clear. Getting back to Phil. See, he upset everybody here. Ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you, and I mean this very seriously, people who meet me quite often after the broadcast, if I'm going to dinner with some people or they meet me socially or something, they're surprised at my equanimity. They're surprised at how placid I look, how serene I seem. And they say, you know, Bob, I can't believe it. I just heard you screaming and shouting on the air, and you look so calm and relaxed. Well, that's because when 7 o'clock comes and we slam the lid on things, we are slamming the lid on things. But where Phil of Old Bridge is concerned, I want to tell you, he is above and beyond the average obnoxious caller. And we have a few. Phil is loathsome, he's despicable, and Phil, above all else, you're a small hypocrite. Here you talk about the language you don't like being used by Joy Behar or the Sliwas, and yet look at the vile, filthy language you used on me. Phil, you are a total failure, a fake, and a phony. And you know something, Phil? And this is no big, brave statement on my part, because you sound like a doddering, geriatric jerk. But I'll tell you something, Phil. I would love to meet you face to face. I would love to duke it out with you. And you know something, Phil? I would gladly smash your nose right down your dumb throat. But would you do me one little favor? Sign a release saying that after I mashed you, you wouldn't sue me. Yes, scumbag! And on WABC, if anybody knows where Phil of Old Bridge lives, I'd like to find out. I'd like to pay him a little visit. Joe, you're at WABC. Hello.
Oh, that was quite a caller you had there.
Well, that's it. That's the end of the line for him. I've been putting up with his hypocrisy for years and years and years.
Well, I was going to say...
You were on the phone waiting, so you heard what he said, that we had a cut.
Well, I'll tell you.
Now, here's a guy complaining that he doesn't like the language other people are using, and look at the loathsome language he used. And what kind of jerk is he? He says, if my wife said that, boy, there'd be trouble around here. What does he mean? He beat her up?
He's just the kind of a guy who is in private with his friends would talk like that.
He is, and this is a term I don't like to use, but I have to. He is the quintessential greaseball.
Well, he proved it.
Yeah.
You know, when I heard him, he proved it, and I know how he speaks when he's in private. He tries, put on a good face. I want to get...
And that fellow, that wild man that was on before, what was his name from Old Bridge?
Phil.
Yeah, he said that anybody who was born after him is a scum. I mean, anybody younger than him?
Well,
is that the...
I don't think he's worth quoting. I don't think he's... No, really. He's totally alienated. He's a sick man. He really is.
He sounded kind of strange to me.
Yeah, he's always been so uptight, and I've never really felt too comfortable with him because he's such an absolute total bigoted person. The consummate anti-Semite. I mean, and look at the crack he made about Polish people. I mean, this guy is just a total bigot.
He's strange.
And worst of all, he's dumb. That's his worst sin. He's dumb. Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you.
Hey, Larry's checking in right here from New York City. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Bob. I'd like to say it's comforting to know that there are people like Mr. Weber who are standing up to the wave of social sexual engineers with their blood-ridden solutions. I'd like to comment about the Israeli action this morning. If I can engage in fantasy...
I'm listening.
Yeah, the two UN so-called peacekeeping soldiers that were wounded.
Yes.
I think they should have been shot or even mutilated. And when the administration earlier this week called for restraint, that should have been the signal for the RDF to charge.
Why would you want these UN people shot or mutilated? Why would you want that?
Well, the reports, the fist fights, and they're standing in the way. And let's face it.
No, you haven't given me a justification for such an absurd statement.
Okay, let me try a little better.
It's as absurd as your comment about Weber.
Oh, what did I say about Weber?
You said he's standing in the way of what I don't know, but you said he's standing.
No, I said he's standing up against.
Against what? What is he standing against? Common sense, decency?
I said standing up for morality against the insane, what I call social sexual engineers.
Well, the social sexual engineers are on the other side.
That's what I said.
Oh, that's what you said. Hey, you know what, Larry? Why don't you go out to Old Bridge and say hello to Phil? I think the two of you would get along real well.
Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Grant. Why always...
Hey, look, I don't like you. I don't like you one single bit. I don't like that comment about they should be shot or mutilated. It makes no sense. You're not making any sense, you jerk.
Will you let me talk, please?
Let you talk. I've been letting you talk. You haven't made any sense so far.
Give me a chance to make sense, and just give me...
All I'm doing is giving you a chance to show people how stupid you are.
Okay, I'm stupid. Can I talk?
Yes, you can talk for a bit. Don't get on my nerves too much. What is it you want to say? You want to try to make a comeback?
I'm just trying to explain what you said that you thought is absurd.
Yeah, okay, Why do you want them shot?
Well, I thought that when they mutilated those Israelis inside Israel, and with the Katyusha rockets being fired inside Israel, and after all, what is the UN peacekeepers...
you don't know what you're talking about, you jerk. What a jerk. Yeah, I gotta get out of here. What the heck am I doing? And I go extend the thing for an hour yet. Instead of 3 hours, 4 hours. For what?
I think Pat Buchanan is the savior this country has been longing for.
Oh, cut it out.
He really is. He puts America first, Bob.
Oh, what does that mean, put America? What does that mean?
Well, let me explain.
I mean, it's a nice, fancy slogan. There was a guy by the name of Charles Lindbergh who was a great American hero, but it was very misguided in the 1940s. And he had a group called America First.
Can I just explain? The only reason you're not supportive of Pat, as far as I could see, is that he puts Israel in its place.
No, he doesn't put Israel in its place. What do you mean, puts Israel in its place?
He didn't support the parents.
No, when you come on the line and say he's the savior of this nation, and then you say because he puts America first, what, is everybody else putting America last?
Well, what is...
Come on, cut it out.
Can I explain?
You know, you're typical of the type of person...
Talk, do you? Are you afraid of me speaking?
No, I'm not afraid of you speaking. How could I be afraid of a lunatic like you?
Well, let's talk about the Persian Gulf War and the stand on that war, all right? Are you still there?
Where do you think I went? You think I went home?
Okay, I do.
How stupid am I still here?
There was the silence there.
What a jerk.
Now, he knew that the only reason we fought that war was to protect...
Oh, he didn't know anything. That's a crock. We wanted to get Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait.
Baloney.
You know, you anti-Semites, you make...
Israel.
You're amazing.
Israel to fight Iraq.
You're amazing. So you're saying Pat Buchanan really appeals to you anti-Semites, huh?
We got to stop Israel.
So you anti-Semites really like Pat Buchanan, eh? Isn't that interesting? Get off my phone, you lousy, bigoted bastard. It's 6 o'clock. I gotta get out of here. John, you're on WABC. Hello.
Hi, Bob. Bob, that call with Phil yesterday gets added to my classic Bob Grant tapes. Now, David Dinkins. Bob, David Dinkins, the man who gets pandered to every Friday morning between 5:30 and 9 on this very station, criticized President Bush this week for lack of leadership and not taking advantage of his position after the war when he had the chance to straighten out some problems that we have, according to David Dinkins. Well, I'd like to ask the question, who the heck is David Dinkins to criticize someone else for lack of leadership and not taking action when he should have? Maybe he's forgotten the Korean grocery, Bensonhurst, and Crown Heights. And I notice how the attendant is on this kick of picking up ethnic causes like pandering to Nelson Mandela for obvious reasons, the Haitians, and now Joe Doherty in a cheap, desperate, pathetic, and in the case of Joe Doherty, insincere attempt to regain votes he's lost because of his disastrous lack of leadership. You know, he said a couple of weeks ago, Bob, that he would never forget the poor and disadvantaged. And then because Laura Blackburn is a fellow African-American and a Dinkins appointee, he continues to port her after she abused thousands of poor people's hard-earned taxpayers' dollars. And every time some black public official gets caught abusing their position, breaking the law, his supporters try to water down the crime by comparing it to something that happened in the Koch administration, followed by that dumb, inevitable accusation of racism and conspiracy on the part of the press. But, you know, Bob, there's something else that goes without saying. David Dinkins has let a bunch of racists, including himself, take over City Hall. See you at the Rio.
That the officer who just called would choose not to use the attorney who you had on in case he, should I say, if he needed him in a case like that, because I believe with all the tags that have been placed on lawyers, some just, some unjust, it's good to see one with such high ideals and beliefs. And
oh, cut it out. Listen, if he weren't going to get at least one-third, if he weren't going to get 33 1/3% minimum for that case, do you think he would have done it? Do you think he would have done it pro bono? Come on, grow up. Get real. Get real.
People can be. Don't you think there can be some bad cops or a cop who might do something wrong? Of course there can be some bad cops. I didn't say all cops were perfect. I know, Bob, but how come you don't let yourself hear that side when someone calls? This man is not against cops. He told you what he thought of Mr. McDonald.
I think the whole incident is an obscenity.
I think it's a lot of money maybe out of line.
I think it's an obscenity that a guy who's mugging somebody gets all this money.
True, but one does not have to do with the other, Bob.
On WABC, we're forging ahead. That was Queen of Ken. No, it was Ken of Queens. I'm making a funny. On WABC.
The reason for my phone call is to deal with Governor Cuomo, or Il Supremo, as you so correctly call him. The man is pure arrogance, and it was during the mayor's campaign. I had listened to him on, I guess, WABC, where once a month he would come on and speak. And
no, that was WCBS. You talking about Il Supremo?
Yes.
Yeah, no, he appears over at WCBS with his sidekick over there, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess it was about a year and a half or or so ago, and a young gentleman called up a college student and in a very polite manner was discussing the Mayor Dinkins stock transfer to his son and, the perhaps improprieties that had taken place.
Yes.
And the arrogance of Cuomo, he literally tore this young college student who was conscientious enough to be aware of what's going on around him and make the phone call.
Yes.
Tore into this young guy and, demanding where he read it, what paper, who was the reporter.
That's quintessential Il Supremo-ese.
It was unbelievable. But December 20th, when he had a press conference and used up airtime unnecessarily to tell us all he wasn't going to run, here it is, February 21st, or 2 months later, and they still haven't gotten a budget in place in New York. Now, I don't even live in New York. I live in New Jersey. But I just find the guy to be the master of deceit and pure arrogance.
Oh.
And I would suggest...
I do believe that as time goes on, people will realize that he is the great pretender, an incredible performer. I take nothing away from his performing ability, but that's what he is, a performer, a bully performer.
I agree.
And you used another correct adjective, extremely arrogant.
Terribly. And, I would venture to say that...
Hey, excuse me a minute, Phil. I feel that you and I are being rude. You know why? Because we're talking about the guy, and we're not talking to him. Excuse me, Phil. I want to talk directly to Mario. May I?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Hey, Mario. Tu sei proprio uno sfacim. Okay, I feel better now.
Interesting is that you handed him all those compliments about how well-educated he is, etc., and then you turn around and say that you can't embrace his doctrines. If he's so much smarter than you are, maybe you should shut up and start listening.
No. You see, you're showing a shallowness. I also admire Il Supremo's mind. That doesn't mean I approve of his conclusions. So how dare you use that type of language to me? Maybe I should shut up and listen. Maybe you ought to shut up and stop calling this program. Get off my phone, you little weasel. I can't believe these people. Lately there's been it's an epidemic of people hanging on every word I say and then trying to trip me up. I don't understand it. Are you all such failures in your lives that you feel your only claim to success, the only way you can validate your existence is to say, well, I told Bob Grant. Well, that's okay with me, pal, because you and I will talk together, and guess what? Only one of us is getting paid for doing the talking, and it's not you. When in 1970 they changed the voting age, they lowered it from 21 to 18. And a lot of people were calling concern that young people would make a mistake in how they would vote. They would vote this way, they would vote that. And I said, don't worry about it. They're not going to vote.
Right, because when I look around at my peers, there's really no interest at all.
No. These are the same. People don't read. People don't read. They're lazy. They don't want to read. They don't want to think. And it takes a little effort, a little thinking to vote.
One thing I think we all should be thankful for is that especially so, the African-American population of America is totally disinterested. And I think as Americans, we should all be thankful for that. Don't you?
No, I don't think so. I want everybody participating. I want a vote that is based on a virtual total participation.
You don't think it would ruin the country if there was real? I mean, we could have.
No, I believe in a majority vote, and if 1 over 50% wants a certain candidate, of course that's the way it works. And by the way, Todd,
yes.
Nice try and try to suck me in, you phony. A copy of my contract in the desk. Would you bring it in here? I want to see where it says I have to continually get agita talking to goofballs. On WAB.
And with him was Ken Belkin.
Ken Bielkin was there, yeah.
Bielkin. I'm just putting out a few notes I'm trying to get to. And it was at that meeting that Buchanan gave them a couple of love words.
You smoke?
A little bit.
Oh, yeah, you smoke a lot. People don't go into a cough when they laugh unless they smoke.
Oh, is that right?
That's right,
I'll
pal.
have to give it up, Bob.
Yeah, why don't you? What do you hate yourself?
Well, I'm retired. I'm getting to the place where I don't worry too much about it.
You don't? You want to croak soon? Okay, fine. But just remember this. Lung cancer is very painful. Lousy way to go, pal.
You're right.
Okay, thank you.
Righto.
I don't understand. You know, anybody with half a brain has got to stop smoking. I don't want to make people around here feel self-conscious. I can't believe the people who pretend to be intelligent who still smoke. I don't want to make anybody feel self-conscious.
I have to agree with you. Reagan was brilliant. And Reagan was brilliant if you happen to be a Japanese, German, or Wall Street banker, a junk bond trader, owner of an S&L, or a holder of defense contractor stocks, or a terrorist. And the rest of us have the high pleasure of paying for all of this.
Well, I tell you, your former boss, Jimmy Carter, should be proud of you. You are probably the most loyal person he has ever had. Biff is obsessed with trying to overcome the 1980 defeat of his beloved Jimmy Carter. Huh?
I just wanted to express my gratitude towards Pat Buchanan for yesterday morning exposing that sleazeball fraud for what he is. Nothing more than a cheap advocacy journalist. And that's basically
Obviously, you're talking about Sam Donaldson.
Obviously, you're talking about Sam Donaldson.
Now, I feel the same way you do, but what will you say if a reporter comes forth and says, I was the person who gave Sam that information?
Well, then I would have to eat my words. But I want to see this reporter. This has been what? This supposedly took place, 6 years ago?
In 1985.
All right, 7 years ago. What's happened in the last 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Where is he getting his information? And I'll tell you something, Bob. Pat Buchanan, say what you will about the guy. I don't mean you, but I'm just speaking rhetorically.
Yes.
The guy does not back down.
Oh, no.
Oh, I love the way he came right back at Donaldson.
No, he does not back down, that's for sure. By the way, Ian from the Bronx. Hello, Johnny.
Good afternoon, Mr. Grant. Before I put my question to you, I want to tell you my wife, she said you make her day, especially when you say you got to get out of here. She just flips behind that. 95% it's like that.
Well, I hope he wins on appeal because I don't think it's a fair rap that he got.
That's right. One thing.
Yeah.
Before you leave, my wife said, would you say you got to get out of here?
You want to know something, Johnny?
Yes, sir.
I got to get out of here.
Good, take care, Mr. Grant.
Okay, Johnny. Okay, rolling.
What?
WABC. I got him. I
want to say about this young girl that was raped by this Tyson.
She wasn't really raped by him. I don't think that was a real rape. It was consensual sex, and then she decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to say I was raped.
Well, Mr. Bogman, if she was, and she was a virgin, she could have been severely injured on that deal because that was a terrible thing, a big fellow like him for a small girl like that.
How do you know? Hey, you know what? You're very naive. You think size has anything to do with it?
Well,
I mean, you can find a very little. What are we talking about here? Thank you for the call. What a jerk! I'm not gonna waste my time with dopes. Hey, wait a minute. If I do that, I won't have a show. Yeah, hero. I'll tell you a real hero. His name is Clarence Thomas.
Very good. No,
what a beautiful guy. His decision yesterday. He and Scalia dissented on a Supreme Court decision, and I said that's why we gotta make sure Bush gets back in for 4 years. I don't want any Democrat appointing the next Supreme Court justice. You know we're going to lose Blackmun. We'll probably lose Stevens. 2 scum liberals.
Right.
I don't want them replaced by other liberals.
You're right.
Think about it.
We have jails overflowing. We have our school system being destroyed. We have third world immigration, both legal and illegal, out of control. Gang warfare in Los Angeles, the first third world city. And I vividly recall President Bush in his left hand signing a bill to increase immigration with that bum Teddy Kennedy and that idiot Bruce Morrison over his shoulder. Bruce Morrison even wanted several 100,000 more immigrants to come into this country.
Yes, that's right.
So with 9 million unemployed, they're laying off thousands at IBM and General Motors and goes on and on. President Bush increased the immigration quota.
I don't know what Teddy Kennedy has on him, but several times he has won when he's butted heads with the president. The president has given in to him.
I also believe, and I'm for Pat Buchanan, I also believe because Pat Buchanan has entered this race, that's one reason why the Haitians are being sent back. I also read the New York Times a couple of weeks ago.
Wait. The president has been very firm on the Haitian issue. Be fair.
Okay.
He's been very firm on the Haitian issue.
But Bob, because this is an election year, I read in the Times a couple of weeks ago where President Bush has authorized increasing the border patrol by a few hundred men. Now, President Bush has really done nothing about immigration.
Well, who has? Even the great Ronald Reagan. Even the great Ronald Reagan. Oh, cut it out with Buchanan. He's not going anywhere. Come on, Neil.
Next time.
Well, what do you want Bill Clinton? I've been reading some of the speeches. Hey, listen, I read part of a speech that he gave at Morehouse College down in Georgia. This guy is a vintage left-wing liberal.
I believe Pat Buchanan would stem the United States.
Loud. So long, Leo. You know these so naive, so immature. Talk about Pat Buchanan as though he's a viable candidate. He's just helping to destroy George Bush. He wants the Democrats to win, I guess. That's all.
For your show, just a brief comment on the last caller. What Neil is trying to say is that Pat Buchanan is helping to maneuver the Republican Party and Bush administration further to the right. That's what he was trying to say.
You know, the